Good morning.
Hey, Stuart.
Hey folks, can you hear me? I've had some more problems with my audio.
Hello, Mateusz. Hello, Ken. All right.
It's 4 pending, actually. I just pushed another one.
Nice. What is that one?
It's Spring Web MVC library instrumentation. It's used in the Spring auto-configure thing.
Yeah, Nikita pushed this one like 2 minutes ago. All right. We might hit the 80 next week. All right. Nikita.
Yeah. So there are several methods in our instrumentation module class which are currently auto-generated by Muzzle code generation plugin. And at least, no, exactly one of them, which get helper classes names. If we remove the possibility, if they remove the way for end user to manually override that method, manually provided, then instrumentation will not work. All other muzzle generated methods are just safety net. So instrumentation will continue to work without them. But this one is required. We usually generate it by muzzle, but if somebody writes an extension and adds new instrumentation and doesn't want to use muzzle for some reason, they can just implement that one method and everything will continue to work without safety net, but it will continue to work.
If I may just correct one thing, we have one method for generating the context or virtual field mappings, which is not exactly the safety net. I mean, if Muzzle doesn't pick up those classes, the fields won't get injected to those mapped classes.
So the question is, do we want to make Muzzle a requirement for writing Java agent instrumentation? Muzzle Gradle plugins, I mean. Or do we still want to leave the possibility that somebody may want to write instrumentation without Muzzle plugin?
I assume it's because they can't.
while we may want to require that, because that will allow us to remove one more method from instrumentation module public interface, and so we reduce our supported public surface.
On the other hand, I suppose there are people who want to build their own custom extensions and they use Maven because they use Maven everywhere in their projects and try to use a muzzle in Maven.
Well, you can write your own instrumentation extensions, which are not instrumentations.
Yeah, but if you want to write your own custom little instrumentation, that I don't know, that's one thing. Yeah.
And it does seem like well, the interface that now has those methods that gets overlaid during muzzle, during code gen, is that public? That's essentially part of our public stability contract, right? For backward compatibility, but it's not, we're not exposing it to users.
Yeah, so that's that gray area, that it's like it's part of binary compatibility, but it's not source compatibility, probably.
Right. What do you think of putting that gray area into its own module that, you know, would then users could always use that to do it manually? They could add that interface themselves. And part of the reason I'm thinking also is because that gray area, I mean, is we do have to treat it as essentially with the same carefulness as public API in terms of breakage.
Sorry, I got dropped out, interrupted. So part of the reason
is because that, yeah, the gray area, we have to treat it as with the same safety and carefulness as public API in terms of breakages anyways. And that would allow somebody to write a Maven muzzle plugin if they wanted using that, or they could manually do that. And I don't think that increases our support burden really anymore, or much more, since that's, we have to be backward, that gray area has to be backward compatible anyway.
I mean, if we anyway have to have that gray area always backward compatible, then probably it didn't make sense even to remove those methods from instrumentation module anyway. So if we still have to maintain the compatibility, then what the difference are they in instrumentation module or in muzzle interface?
I think Mateusz, didn't you have a thought on hiding some of those things?
Well,
I'm misremembering.
I think I maybe wrote a comment about, you know, hiding, but not really, you know, removing the need for the backwards compatibility, because as long as we compile that stuff into the instrumentation module, it will always be required for us to, well, maintain that compatibility.
Yeah.
I think I had a similar thought to yours, except I thought about putting all those muzzle interfaces and stuff into a separate package and running the SDK's API checker thing over it.
But if we still want to have that backward compatibility, even if just binary, not source compatibility, then again, what's the difference? Are they part of the extension API module, or they are in separate module, which still we have to maintain? If the compatibility requirements are exactly the same, then different module will not give us anything. Or
yeah, I think the only thing it gives us is users. It may be clearer to users which APIs they should use directly when writing instrumentation and which APIs we use to auto-generate stuff into the instrumentations.
okay, I will think about that. But one more notice is that even if we remove that method from instrumentation module, then actually end users still can write that public method in their subclass, and the muzzle generator will still back off, so everything will continue to work. It just will be like tribal knowledge, not publicly supported.
Not really. I think in some of the latest PR, probably you have changed the method handle invocation to a casting to an interface. So they have to implement the interface, the muzzle something muzzle interface, and then implement methods from that interface. And that interface is kind of private in our muzzle module.
Yeah, I mean, if we move that method from instrumentation module to muzzle interface,
yeah,
then end user who doesn't use muzzle, if they still implement that method themselves in their subclass of instrumentation module, then our machinery will still detect that, will not auto-generate it, so everything will continue to work exactly as of now.
Well, we'll have to change our machinery so that it detects the case when an instrumentation module does not implement our muzzle interface, but still implements some of its methods.
But we already detect those individual methods. If that method is present, we will not generate it. If that method is present, we will not generate.
Oh, you mean the CodeGen plugin?
Yes.
Yeah, that we do. But if they are not using the CodeGen plugin, then it won't run. So that the run.
Okay, yeah. Interface will be absent. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Yeah. Right. Okay. Then I will think about that separate module if I see any benefits in that, or if there is none, then we'll just move everything back. Because, well, what's the point then? Okay. Okay. Then my second question is, again, I try to take a look at those 3 API modules that we want to declare stable. And okay, extension API model is quite small, and I know it by heart. I can say, yes, I'm now comfortable it can be declared stable. But for example, if we look at the instrumentation API, that's huge model. It contains a lot of classes, a lot of methods. How do we decide, yes, now it can be stable? Does anybody have any idea for that?
I think we have a issue.
I think it mostly mentions the instrumenter refactoring, which is one of the conditions, but probably not the only one.
Yeah, this is we're finally.
I'm not sure about that actually. I mean, if we are talking about instrumentation API module, and then its stability, at least for me, means that users can write instrumentations using that API, and that instrumentation will continue to work. If some attributes change their name or new attributes or value, then instrumentation will continue to work. So API stability, in my opinion, still holds.
And the attributes extractors are kind of supposed to encapsulate those semantic attributes. So we probably shouldn't even expose the semantic attributes module as API in Gradle.
So, assuming that if we actually try to put value to all attributes mentioned in semantic convention, then yes, that semantic attribute module from SDK, it's actually, yes, not API dependency, but implementation dependency, correct.
So my thought on why I wrote that was, say the change, like which attributes that we should be capturing. So for example, that the discussion we've had around the HTTP, I think I might have linked. No, I didn't. So the whole thing about there's certain required, like say for HTTP server, we capture scheme, host, and target. What if the semantic conventions, before they go stable, decide that we should capture scheme, host, path, query string instead?
Okay.
No.
Yeah. But okay, even yes, we depend on semantic conventions stability, but that is one known checkbox, one known requirement. Yes, but what are others? So we can migrate all instrumentations. We can at least put a checkbox for convention stability. Is that it? Or do we need anything else? Because if we think in that way, then Java Agent Extension API can be declared stable right now, because it doesn't depend on anything external. It's just our, do we feel it's stable or not?
So I have had the controversial thought yesterday or the day before yesterday that we probably should move our config class to the Java Agent Instrumentation API, because it's not supposed to be used in library instrumentation. It's only Java Agent specific. And yeah, that includes, of course, changes to the extension API and some changes to instrumentation API, but yeah.
Yeah, but that's a perfect example that question, when do we stop and declare it's stable? That question is totally vague and blurry for us now. We don't know when to stop.
So we had this discussion before about what is the value, is there a big benefit for us to stabilize extension API before instrumentation API? Since, I mean, extensions depend on all three of these. So it's not like we can say extensions are stable until all three are.
Okay, that brings me to a question: how do we decide that instrumentation API and Java agent instrumentation API is stable? And so we know two criteria: all instrumentation using new instrumenter API and semantic convention are stable. What else? Do we have any criteria else?
I think just all of, vote. All of us say, yes, I'm comfortable. No more changes. Everything
Then
going
that
forward is backward compatible.
But that meant that we could vote yesterday and declare Java agent instrumentation API stable.
No, because we haven't met the two criteria, the two checkboxes yet.
But Java agent instrumentation API doesn't depend on those two checkboxes.
It does depend on instrumentation API, so it kind of transitively depends on those two checkboxes.
And what's the advantage? Like to me, like what are we gaining by declaring this stable by itself? It seems to me like it's either all three of these. We need all three of them to have true stability from a user perspective.
Probably. I'm just trying to to chip off, to divide and conquer. Currently, we have this big single ball of some substance, and we don't know what to do. So, are you saying that we have two known checkboxes for instrumentation API, and as soon as these two checkboxes are checked, then we have a domino effect and all three modules are stable?
If we all say yay, yeah.
I think we should probably take the last long careful look at the whole module and check if there are some things that probably maybe should not be included there. Oh, I think we have an issue about the instrumentation version, that it should be read from some properties file or something. And right now it's just hard coded with the jar implementation version manifest attribute, which is not exactly correct, probably.
But that isn't that implementation detail and not API problem.
Well, if the instrumentation version class with the static constant is public, then it's not an implementation detail.
Yeah, but we don't have.
We do.
Well, what version are you talking about right now?
There's an instrumentation version class, and it reads the instrumentation library version from the jar.
Yes.
And it should probably be read from every instrumentation potentially can have a separate version. Like, for example, we're including third-party Couchbase instrumentations, I think. And should they be versioned with our versioning scheme, or should we choose Couchbase -3.1 for them?
Okay. I see what you're saying. Okay.
Nikita, I mean, possibly to your point of how to chip away, because and Demetrius's point about, we have to take a really close look through everything. If you want to maybe open an issue that breaks down by packages or something, and we could, check off, not saying yes, it's stable now, but that yes, we've reviewed and we can track any issues there.
I can do that. I have
if you think that would be useful.
I have small fear that like we changed some package and that may change the already reviewed package. So we should go like a lot of back and forth.
So maybe, yeah, it totally will. But maybe like phase 1 pass, and then we still need a final review and then a final review. We don't have John here. John, I'm sure, could give us pointers on how the SDK reviews went before declaring stability.
That I remember. That was Bogdan wreaking havoc on every class and every method. And yeah, that was fun for me to watch, not fun for them to argue, I think. Okay, yes.
Yeah.
At least I know.
We'll ask John. Yeah, good.
At least I know some requirements, so that's already good. So when they are checked, I will start pushing very actively. Okay, thanks.
So if you all are on Slack, you saw that had a little snafu with the 161 release. And so I trying to document and see how to make things more smooth in the future. And part of the problem was me, but the other part of the problem was that our tags don't build successfully after they've been made, oftentimes because of dependencies on latest collector, some dependencies on snapshot Gradle plugins, and some other reasons. What's great is that we've actually, these have been resolved just in the last couple of weeks. So, and those were our main 2 things that were causing backports in the last 2 patch releases. And I'm not sure this one is a big deal, since it's pretty easy to mitigate and doesn't require necessarily backporting if it causes problems. But just wanted to be sort of transparent about that. And if anybody has ideas, thoughts, please post. So we did get out 162, and I think that's good. Any other topics anybody wants to chat about?
I'm just working on getting the JFR agent data into New Relic. It's not quite there yet, but we're making progress, and I'm chatting to Jack about
that. This is the JFR data into New Relic.
Mm-hmm.
What's the?
I think he's just prototyping. You know, he just wants to land it somewhere to visualize it.
Cool. What protocol are you using to send that data?
OTLP.
How are you putting, event data, not profiling data?
Not profiling data yet. This is purely metric data for right now.
Got it. Oh, nice. Yeah, there's no, well, I guess there's Prometheus, but yeah, Jaeger and Zipkin are tracing only. So does New Relic, Jack, do you all have a OTLP endpoint?
Yeah, it's so there's some caveats. So cumulative metrics aren't supported yet. We're trying to work on that, and right now it's only gRPC. There's no HTTP protobuf or HTTP JSON support, but yeah, so there's a free tier for New Relic, so you can send your data in and visualize it and start to get a feel for it.
And that's why I'm using it, because it's a familiar tool and it comes with a free tier. And that, of course, is how they get you.
Nice.
First one's free.
Cool. Anybody else?
So one minor thing I noticed, there's a gRPC version difference between the OpenTelemetry Java project and the instrumentation project. And I found where in the code it's coming from and how and like I'm gonna open a PR to fix it. But I guess is there any sort of process for ensuring that shared dependencies are synced for versions, or is it just kind of ad hoc?
That is a question for me to ask Anurag. He will have thoughts. Do you know where in the instrumentation where we're pulling in gRPC version?
Yeah, it's so it's not in the place that you would expect. It's not in the dependency management section. It's in the Java agent exporters, the build.gradle for that. So Java agent dash exporters module.
And so are you, how is that causing a problem? How is that manifesting itself?
I'm not exactly sure it is causing a problem. One thing I noticed was that when I was using 1.5.3 or 2 of the agent, and I was sending data to the New Relic backend, actually, I was getting these weird errors. And I was trying to track that down, and I came across this dependency difference, and I've noticed that in certain gRPC versions, there's like methods added or removed, and different transitive dependencies on Guava sometimes, and so I think to the extent that it's possible, we should keep those in sync. And this is just like a minor thing, but was just curious if y'all tried to do that in any way to sync shared transitive dependencies.
So for the most part, we just get those transitive dependencies from the SDK. That's why I was kind of wondering, I think in the gRPC case, the SDK intentionally declares it compile only.
Right.
If I'm because they want to support kind of whatever version the user brings.
Yep,
So
and that's exactly what's happening. So it's
Right.
a dependency on the gRPC netty shaded. So one of the implementation, I should say.
And how does the
Yeah.
instrumentation bring it in? Like I understand the exporters, how does the instrumentation also depend on it?
The instrumentation. So the instrumentation has a dependency on it because when you package up the agent, you need to have some sort of default implementation so that when you use the auto configure module and set your environment variables to use gRPC, that there's something available on the class path, like some gRPC implementation on the class path. So it has to choose some reasonable default.
Got it. Expressly because it's not included in the exporter.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So I feel like that is, I mean, it's sort of intentional that the SDK says, hey, we support any gRPC version. So I'm not sure it's a version So I don't see it as a version conflict based on how Anurag has explained that to me previously, and that choice of making it a compile only dependency. But
Yeah,
I'll
I mean,
definitely
it's-
ask him. Yeah.
That assumes that the gRPC APIs are stable and that the implementations don't like call methods that are changed, and that has happened. So method and I'd have to dig up some specific examples, but I've noticed runtime errors when my API version of gRPC is 1.x and my implementation version is different. So
Right.
I
So we
do
should
think
definitely.
the API and the implementation need to be synced up, or it's better if they are.
I would raise that as an issue in the SDK repo, that it needs to be documented what version of gRPC is supported, I think.
Okay.
Right? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, if there is such a dependency, then it seems like users should, and since it doesn't bring it in transitively, the right dependency version, I think it needs to declare somehow to users. But I will actually first, I'll just ask Anurag. He'll know, I think.
Cool.
Yeah, and if you do get if you get an actual error, then definitely open that in the instrumentation repo. That would be really helpful.
Yeah, I have gotten real errors, but I'm trying to track down exactly what the cause is, whether it's a behavioral issue with the combination of the gRPC implementation and the API, like some compatibility issue with different versions there, or whether it's on our New Relic side. So I don't want to speak too soon on that. Still digging into that.
Cool.
Well, thanks.
Yeah. Any other?
I may ask then one more question. In that Java Agent Instrumentation API module, we have several classes, like for example, Bootstrap package prefixes holder, which is used by our tooling, specifically by agent installer, and used by our internal instrumentations, like class loader instrumentation. And I think that's only usage there should be. It shouldn't be actually part of the public API, but it is used by some of our instrumentations and tooling.
We could move it to the Java Agent Bootstrap module, I think.
Yeah, so that was my first idea. Can Bootstrap module just be used for such reusable but internal thingies? Okay.
I mean, if they are used by our internal instrumentations, then sure.
What about, there are a couple of other classes that again used internally by instrumentation API and tooling. Like class loader matcher holder. It's used by extension API, private class from extension API, and the internal instrumentation. Can it be moved to Bootstrap as well? Extension API implementation should always run with Bootstrap module present. Am I right?
So the question is, can extension API have a compile only dependency on
Bootstrap, yes.
Bootstrap? Only problem I can think of is like writing tests or something that.
Oy.
But tests should be extension. I mean, like, yeah, that's kind of weird. I don't know.
Okay, so there are no like, if that works, that's okay. Okay, then I will try to make it work, including tests, probably somehow. Okay, thank you.
If you don't want to have a compiled and dependency, you could do some tricks with like have some sort of interface that's part of like the public API and have the implementation of that interface in some secret part and just class 4 name it.
Well, I can always use method handles as well.
So that
Probably.
you have like you have the SDK API and implementation in separate modules.
Yep.
If you
Okay,
want
that
like coming back to your previous goal of declaring the thing stable, basically, if you manage to remove almost everything from the public API, then it's much easier to declare it stable.
yeah, that's why I am trying this weird movements right now. Yes. Okay, that's a good point. Thanks.
So these classes, I mean that the class holder, master holder is in an internal package. So we probably should have a disclaimer somewhere that, hey, internal packages are unstable by definition.
Yeah, so we should definitely do that. But if we can actually hide them, that's even better.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I've gotten pretty comfortable with the internal package concept just because it's used so much in the SDK repo now. So I think that's I don't have any issue with having that, carrying that over and not, preferring. I think the stance in the SDK repo has been to prefer using an internal package versus trying to do something via reflection.
Well, I remember quite a lot of angry issues in Gradle repository that's not work anymore. Why do we use internal API? But we use it. It's not work. Fix it. So
I know, but that ship has sailed for OpenTelemetry, right? There's a ton of internal packages in the SDK.
Yeah, but
so
we still
I don't think.
If we can, I will still try to remove as much as possible. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Just briefly, in the last week, we talked about transforming Lambda classes. That went in. Laura, you might have been onto something about the concern about native images. I did run into a problem, but Ben also by including more classes into the pre-compilation step, I think got around that. So I will keep you posted. Oh, maybe not. No, because I had reverted that in my branch. So I could be, yeah. Anyway, we'll keep you posted. Removing, these were two kind of, we'd been talking about this for a while, of HTTP clients, how in the spec, there you have options to capture one of these four sets. And so we've sort of decided, or we're trying to consolidate and simplify the instrumenter APIs. And what we've seen is that all of our client libraries, instrumentations all captured URL already. So we're just going with URL and not capturing these others for clients. And on the servers, we're going with this. The only exception that is Netty today is giving us URL. So we'll have to revisit that still. But I think that's a good, and I think that's some of the spec discussions I've seen around the stabilizing the HTTP semantic conventions have also been kind of discussing this idea of there's so many different options. It makes it harder for backends. It makes telemetry less consistent. So there may be, we may be able to influence that a little bit.
I was just going to say, if the spec is that loose though, like they still have 4 different possibilities here. Is it really that important to be consistent between instrumentations? As long as you're satisfying one of the 4, is it actually important?
Well, it makes our instrumenter APIs clearer. Like, I think part of the goal is to provide a little bit more prescriptive advice in the instrumenters, like just seeing all of these different options could be more overwhelming for users.
Versus like 2 that are clearly named, like server, client.
Yeah, so
like if server do URL, if client do the 3.
Yeah, and even better, we have now HTTP client attributes extractor. We have a HTTP client attributes extractor that you use for HTTP clients, and it only has URL.
Not the other way around. Yeah, okay, perfect. That probably helps instrumenters. Cool.
You should also make testing easier.
Yeah.
And I do think it would make, so the discussion in the spec is around potentially reducing this matrix for the benefit of backends. But we'll see. That's I think there's an OTEP where there's some discussion going on right now.
Cool.
Smoke test maintenance, including where Tomcat smoke tests are now running against Java 17. Nikita's been doing a lot of work around stabilizing the APIs, reducing the public API surface, and then some more good progress on the instrumenter API conversion. 2 merged and 4 pending. So yay. And that's it. Any last topics? Thoughts?
While we were just talking, I managed to iron out the last kinks and actually get some data showing up in New Relic.
Nice. Is that code in public yet?
Yeah. So I spoke to the folks at Red Hat, the legal folks, and they were happy for it to go to Contrib. So I've got a fork of Contrib with another subproject in it called JFR Streaming. It's super alpha, but that's where I'm working. If anyone wants to come and splash around in my code, feel free.
Nice.
Ben, can you link it in the shared Google Doc here?
Yeah, sure.
I bet I
Thanks.
can find it.
Like I'm faster than Ben. Yep.
JFR streaming.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, and feel free to land, a PR. It's fine to throw. It's fine for stuff to be super alpha in Contrib anytime.
Yeah, I'm just gonna basically make sure I agree about the data that it produces and make sure that it's not just producing nonsense before I land the PR. That seems like being a good citizen.
All right, then. Let's end 3 minutes early, a whole 3 minutes. Great to see you all.
Bye.
Bye.